Children and adolescents in India are grieving the loss of real-world classes for months together. Youth and middle-aged are feeling the brunt of a shattered economy, and people of all ages are falling victim to the pandemic. On top of all that, ordinary people in India are feeling another pain, the iron hand of the law falling on them with regard to COVID-related rules and regulations, while India's leaders are able to easily fly over them. In the best of times, many of India's leaders behave as though they are a law unto themselves, making a mockery of the concept of equality for all citizens in a democracy. The gradation of flouting rules may vary, but generally the lawbreakers fall into three categories: political leaders, religious heads, and celebrities. Politics as a ticket to fiefdom. The world now knows that if you're the Indian Prime Minister, you can advise the nation about the importance of COVID precaution, even lock down the nation, and then fly to Bengal and address maskless millions and even tell them that you're glad that they turned up in large numbers. And India knows that if you are the Chief Minister of the most literate state, Kerala, you can instruct people about the importance of social distancing even at home and then plan a grandiose swearing-in ceremony. Narendra Modi and Pinarayi Vijayan have relentlessly emphasized on digital. India has upwards of 320 million students, the largest student community in any country in the world. If they were a nation, they would be the third largest country in the world, equal to the United States. And all of them are growing up seeing the wrong examples of leaders who preach one thing and practice another. Religion as an infinite source of worldly power. The average Indian knows that neither the politician nor police knows how to deal with religious heads who flout rules. The power of religions transcend even COVID times, and every religion has been blatantly exposing their muscle in flouting rules from Delhi to Haridwar to Munnar. In the early days of the pandemic, some 3,500 people attended the Tablighi Jamaat meeting in Delhi. And with the full-blown experience of the devastation that COVID can create, over 9 million were allowed to congregate at the Mahakumbh in Haridwar. And last month, in April, about 350 priests of the Church of South India had the gall to attend a retreat in Munnar. More than 100 of them contracted the disease and 4 have died. Just imagine the kind of lessons that India's religious followers learn from their religious leaders. The celebrity status to flout rules. Just like many Indian political leaders and religious heads, many of India's celebrities also wonder just for whom India's laws are made. Can't be for them. So an Arbaz Khan and a Sohail Khan could just fly in from the UAE into Mumbai and head straight home, unaware of quarantine regulations. Quarantine can't be for us. Sometimes that Indian celebrity penchant to violate rules is taken abroad, only to learn that you can't get away with such nonsense in other countries, not even in the Maldives, where rules apply equally to all. So last week, the Bengaluru FC team was asked to just get out of Maldives immediately, where they had gone to play a match. See how one football team can bring down the reputation of a nation whose Prime Minister is a globetrotter trying to raise the prestige of the country. The Maldivian Sports Minister Ahmad Mahluf minced no words in his tweet. Unacceptable behavior from Bengaluru FC, breaching the strict guidelines from HPA and the AFC.com. The club should leave immediately as we can't entertain this act. We honored the commitment we gave a few months back, even with the surge in cases and pressure from the public. Like their seniors, India's junior celebrities are also either ignorant of the laws of the land or are confident that police will give them preferential treatment. This week, when India's dashing young cricketer Prithvi Shaw was travelling interstate from Maharashtra to Goa on holiday without an e-pass, police stopped him at Amboli and asked him to get an e-pass. he could get one and then allowed to carry on. If only police were so nice to every Indian citizen as they are to Prithvi Shaw. Just 2 days after the Amboli incident, a 57-year-old heart patient in Kerala, Sunil Kumar, was stopped on the road near Kilimanur, Kerala, by police because he was not carrying a self-declaration. He was asked to pay a fine of 500 rupees. According to two different versions, he refused to pay or he did not have enough money on him. So police seized his bike. He had to walk home, where he collapsed and died. By the logic in which police treated Prithvi Shaw, Sunil Kumar should just have been asked to write a self-declaration then and there. Whether political leaders, religious heads or celebrities, such preferential treatment gives a slap on the face to our constitution, which has such an overwhelming emphasis on equality. I spoke to Professor Babu Joseph, a United States Templeton Freedom Award honorary mention winner, and who has twice been invited for teleconferencing with former US President George Bush Jr. on what our Constitution bestows on the Indian citizen. After all, the preamble of our Constitution starts with "We the people of India."
One thing is clear: in Indian democracy, as envisaged and envisioned by the Constitution, people are sovereign and supreme. All institutions and constitutional functionaries have only limited powers granted by the people of this country. This is equally true of Indian president also. Probably he is the first servant of the people.
The president as our first servant sounds wonderful, but that's the theory part. We see the practicals in Delhi, Haridwar, Munnar, Amboli, Kilimanur, and elsewhere. I asked two former DGPs what police officers can and ought to do when they find people like the Prime Minister or a Chief Minister violating rules right under their gaze. One former DGP said they must act if laws are violated. And the other former DGP said the courts are better placed to censure such violations and to uphold the law even against the PM. But our experience shows that even they don't. The rule of law, which prescribes that all should be treated alike in the presence of law, is often tempered by the way the community views it, howsoever discomforting such a thought may be to a law-abiding citizen. Great nations are not great just because of their military or economic might, but also by the manner in which they treat their own citizens and even those who live there. Like a Bhutan, which has managed to vaccinate almost its entire population, or an Israel, which sent its Consul General Jonathan Zadok to Idiki this week to attend the funeral of Soumya Santosh, a 31-year-old caretaker who was killed in Israel in a Hamas attack. Zadok travelled all the way to the interior village of Kiripara in Kerala's hilly Idiki district for the funeral, which even the Kerala Chief Minister skipped. So if India's top leaders, cutting across the spectrum, blatantly violate laws, how does our democracy hold up? Because at the bottom of the pyramid, there are numerous law-abiding citizens who wish the country well and practice accordingly. Like the young engineer Rebecca Royce, who drove down from Kottayam to Chenganur this week on her wedding day in order to keep the total number of guests at the wedding to the bare minimum prescribed by the government. And post-wedding, she drove back to Kottayam with her engineer husband, Shine Samuel. The sad irony of India's democracy is that police will keep a close watch on the guest count at the wedding of Rebecca and Shine, but will have no qualms about the grandiose swearing in of the new Kerala government on May 20th at a stadium in Thiruvananthapuram involving 500 people at a time when Thiruvananthapuram is undergoing a triple lockdown. So the joke this week in Kerala is about brides and grooms sending invitations to friends, saying they are having a swearing in ceremony. Because at swearing in ceremonies, you can have up to 500 guests. But jokes apart, India's more than 320 million students who have not been able to go to classes for more than a year are getting object lessons in how to violate laws from their leaders. Thank you.